I turned 38 that Sunday. I booked a quiet brunch at my favorite place and invited everyone. My parents, my siblings, my nieces and nephews. The table had 12 seats, but I sat alone. The waiter kept asking if others were joining. I kept lying. Yes, they're on their way. But they weren't. Because 1 hour later I saw the truth. On Instagram. I was turning 38 that Sunday and I told myself this year I was going to do something simple but special. Nothing flashy, no big party, just a quiet brunch with the people I love most. My family. I picked a peaceful little restaurant just outside of town. It wasn't fancy but it had charm. The kind of place with soft music, warm lighting, and the smell of fresh coffee floating through the air. I'd been there before with a friend and ever since I had pictured having my birthday there someday. So I went ahead and made the reservation. 12 seats. Enough for my parents, my brother and his wife, my 2 sisters, their kids, and my uncle and aunt who lived nearby. I even paid in advance for a preset menu. Nothing too expensive, just thoughtful. I picked everyone's favorite dishes. Chicken pot pie for Dad, roasted vegetables for Mom, and warm bread pudding for dessert because that's what we always shared as kids. Then I sat down and wrote out the invitations. Not just a group message. I took the time to send each one a personal text. I added emojis, little jokes, even reminders of inside memories. Can't wait to finally see you all again, I wrote. It's been too long. Brunch is on me. Just bring your appetite and hugs. As I pressed send, I actually smiled. It felt good. I'd always been the one who remembered birthdays, anniversaries, even silly dates like the first time my brother got his driver's license. I showed up for everyone every time. I baked cakes, I babysat, I even covered bills when someone was short on rent. Never once did I ask for anything in return. This brunch, it wasn't about the food. It was about finally gathering, even just for an hour or two. I imagined us laughing, maybe playing a little trivia game, and someone would probably tell that old story about me getting frosting on my nose when I turned 8. I thought, maybe this year they'd show up for me. Just once. Just show up. I got there almost 40 minutes early. I always do that. I like to prepare, make things feel a little more personal. I had these handmade place cards I spent the night before writing, each with a tiny gold sticker in the corner and a quote that fit the person it was for. I even tied little thank you notes to small jars of jam I made at home, my way of saying, you matter to me. I gave the waiter a warm smile as he showed me to the long table in the back. It was beautiful just like I imagined. White linen napkins, flickering tea lights, and windows that looked out onto the garden where a few early spring flowers were just starting to bloom. Soft jazz played in the background, one of those saxophone tunes that makes you feel like time is slowing down. Nearby, I could hear laughter from another table. A big family celebrating something, maybe a graduation or a retirement. Their joy filled the space like sunlight. It wasn't mine, but it felt good just being around it. I set each place card carefully, lining them up beside the plates. Dad, Mom, Lucas and Jamie, Tina, Michelle, Uncle Ray, Aunt Helen. I placed my own card last, right in the center. I took a step back and looked at the table like it was a painting. 12 seats waiting for love to fill them. Then I sat down and waited. 5 minutes passed. I checked my phone. Nothing. 10 minutes. Still quiet. At 12:15 a text finally came through. It was from Michelle, my younger sister. Hey, I'm so sorry something came up. I'm not gonna make it. Rain check. My stomach tightened but I replied kindly, no worries. Hope everything's okay. 12:20. Another ping. Work emergency, said Lucas. Didn't expect it. Hate to bail. I stared at his message a little longer. He just posted a story on Instagram that morning about detailing his new car. Then came Tina. Feeling under the weather today. Think I'll stay in. And just like that, one by one they started to cancel. Every few minutes a new excuse. Some blamed traffic, some blamed headaches, one even said they forgot. The waiter came over, cheerful and patient. Would you like to order now, ma'am? Or wait a bit longer? I forced a smile. I think I'll wait just a little more. But my voice cracked on the last word. The restaurant was full now. Mothers opening gifts, fathers telling stories, kids giggling as they played with their forks. And I just sat there, surrounded by 12 empty chairs and plates that no one would touch. The tea lights flickered like they were sorry for me. I picked up my water glass just to keep my hands busy and kept checking my phone every few seconds, hoping maybe one of them would say, just kidding, I'm on my way. But that text never came. Another waiter passed by and looked at my table, then at me, then away. That hurt the most, the way people started pretending not to see me. Like if they ignored the empty table, they could pretend the sadness sitting there wasn't real. I didn't want to order, but the waiter came back a third time, and I couldn't keep stalling without looking pathetic. So I smiled politely, pretending it didn't sting, and asked for the buttermilk pancakes with berries and a side of eggs. My voice was steady, but inside I felt like a child trying not to cry in a crowded room. When the food arrived, it was warm and smelled exactly how comfort should. But it didn't taste like anything. I cut into the pancakes slowly, my fork trembling a little. Each bite felt heavier than the last, like I was swallowing disappointment instead of syrup. Across from me, 12 perfect plates stayed untouched. I glanced at the place cards again. Their names sat there like ghosts, polite little reminders of the people who were supposed to show up for me but didn't. The small jam jars looked ridiculous now. So much effort, so much thought just sitting there collecting silence. I kept my head down, eating quietly while pretending everything was fine. Just a woman enjoying a solo brunch, no big deal. But inside it felt like someone had gently taken a knife and pressed it right into the center of my chest. Not enough to kill, just enough to make it hurt every second. Every so often I sipped my water and stared at the door, imagining one of them walking in and shouting, "Surprise! Gotcha!" But it never happened. Of course it didn't. I looked around again. Tables were filled with people sharing food, stories, memories. A couple toasted to their anniversary. A little girl opened a gift with squeals of excitement. A grandmother clapped as someone brought out a birthday cake. And I was there, pretending I wasn't invisible. I reached for my phone out of habit. A part of me still believed maybe I missed a message. Maybe someone got stuck in traffic. Maybe there'd be a voicemail or a missed call. There wasn't. But something made me open Instagram. Just to distract myself for a second. And that's when I saw it. The first photo popped up from my cousin's story. My brother, my sisters, my parents, even Uncle Ray and Aunt Helen. Smiling. Standing in front of a big blue and white cake shaped like a dog bone. My brother's dog, Cooper, sat in the middle wearing a tiny party hat. "Happy 5th birthday, Coop," the caption read, followed by balloons, hearts, and champagne emojis. They were all there. Dressed in matching shirts that said, Team Cooper. My mom was laughing, holding a mimosa. My dad was wearing a hat with floppy dog ears. Michelle, the one who said she was feeling sick, was in the background blowing bubbles. Lucas, who claimed a work emergency, was pouring champagne. I froze. For a moment I couldn't even blink. It was like time just stopped. My hands went cold. The restaurant around me blurred into a dull hum. They hadn't just skipped my brunch. They hadn't just forgotten. They had chosen. Chosen to go somewhere else. Chosen to celebrate someone else. A dog. I zoomed in on the photo. Tina had my homemade jam jar in her hand. She must have taken it from the bag I left at her house yesterday. She smiled into the camera like this was the happiest day of her life. I put my phone down slowly. My fork was still in my hand, shaking now. The laughter in that photo echoed louder in my head than anything around me. They didn't just miss my birthday. They lied to me. And suddenly I wasn't sad anymore. I was quiet. And cold. And full of something deeper than anger. It was the kind of pain that doesn't scream. It just settles. I didn't cry at the restaurant. Not once. I sat there until the last bite was gone, quietly placed the napkin on the table and asked for the check. The waiter gave me that soft look. The kind people give when they know something's wrong but don't want to say it. I smiled, tipped well, and left with my shoulders straight. Not because I was okay, but because I refused to let that place witness my breakdown. The air outside felt colder than it should have been. I walked to my car, heels clicking against the pavement, and slid into the driver's seat without a sound. I didn't play any music on the way home. Just silence. That heavy, stretching silence that somehow makes everything louder. I kept both hands on the wheel, but my mind wasn't on the road. It drifted. To the time I paid Lucas's tuition when he lost his scholarship. I didn't even think twice, just wrote the check. He had cried in my arms and I told him he was worth more than his grades. To the time Michelle had her miscarriage and stayed with me for 2 months, too broken to be alone. I cooked, cleaned, and held her hand through every night she woke up screaming. To when Dad got laid off and I quietly sent money to Mom every month so they wouldn't lose the house. I even skipped my vacation that year. To Tina's wedding, the one I helped plan. I was up at 3 a.m. making table charts, And I gave her my emergency savings when the caterer canceled last minute. Every memory hit like a wave. I'd always been the one they called. The one who showed up. And today when I finally asked them for something small, just a seat at a table, a few hours of their time, they chose a dog's birthday instead. Not one of them had shown up for me. Not once. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel as tears welled in my eyes, not from sadness but from clarity. The kind that stings. The kind that changes things. But suddenly I realized. I wasn't just hurt. I was done. That night I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of my bed, shoes still on, staring at the wall. Not angry. Not crying. Just empty. Like something in me had quietly died at that restaurant and I was left picking through the ashes. Around 1 a.m. I opened my laptop. Not to scroll, not to distract myself, but to finally see clearly. The first account I checked was my parents' rent portal. For the past 5 years I'd been covering their monthly payment, $2,300 every month, set up as an auto transfer. It wasn't even something we discussed anymore. Just expected. A silent burden I carried while they posted vacation photos and new garden furniture online. Cancelled. Then I opened the grocery card account. I'd given Michelle a second card years ago after her husband walked out. She used it weekly. Sometimes daily. Organic produce, snacks for the kids, makeup, all under emergencies. Card deactivated. Then I moved on to Lucas's college fund. That one stung. Every month, like clockwork, I sent $350 into his education account. He called me Auntie Hope, always smiling when he needed money. But he wasn't at the table tonight either. He was the one holding the champagne next to the dog. The transfer stopped. I went through every single auto payment, shared account, scheduled gift, reminder, and emotional tie I had to them. It was long. Too long. And it made me realize how much of myself I'd poured into people who never once refilled me. Then I stood up. I walked to the closet and pulled down the box I always kept neatly stacked. Family gifts. It was filled with little things I'd bought throughout the year. A scarf Mom liked. A book for Dad. Candles for Michelle. A leather wallet for Lucas. Birthday cards I'd handpicked. Letters I never sent. Even old photos from our better days. Framed, wrapped, and labeled. I unwrapped every single thing. Put them all in a cardboard box. One by one. No rush. No hesitation. Then I wrote a note. Just a simple one. Return to sender. Unloved. I didn't sign it. I didn't explain. At dawn I drove to my parents' house. Quiet streets. Birds barely stirring. The box sat heavy on the passenger seat. When I reached their porch I got out, placed the box right in front of the door and walked away. I didn't ring the bell. I didn't wait. But something inside me felt lighter. Not healed. Not yet. But lighter. And that was enough to keep walking. The next morning I woke up to a buzzing sound that made my head spin. At first I thought I'd forgotten to turn the ringer off on my phone, but when I glanced at the screen I froze. 78 missed calls. It didn't take long to see who they were from. My mom, my sister, and Lucas. One after another, messages pouring in like a flood I never asked for. I didn't listen to all of them right away. I wasn't ready. I stared at the screen for a while, feeling the weight of every call they'd made. A weight that had been pressing on me for years, but this time I was no longer willing to carry it. I opened the first voicemail. My mother's voice broke through, as calm as ever, but with a touch of urgency, a desperate attempt to fix something that couldn't be fixed. You're being dramatic. Her words hit like cold water. We didn't think it'd mean that much to you. Why are you acting like this? I could hear her trying to mask the frustration, but it was there, just beneath the surface. Always there, as if she believed I was just overreacting, that I didn't deserve to feel hurt, that my emotions were too much. I didn't even let the voicemail finish before I deleted it. Then came Michelle. Her voicemail was a bit longer, full of sniffling and pleading, but there was something hollow about her words. I didn't know you'd react this way. You've always been so strong, so dependable. We thought it was just a small thing, a little mix-up. I scoffed. A mix-up. That's what they called it. A small thing. I deleted it too. One by one they all came, their voices full of excuses, rationalizations, and guilt. Lucas's voicemail was the hardest to listen to. I could hear him pacing in the background, maybe walking around the house trying to think of something to say that might make me forgive him. but nothing could fix the hollow feeling I had inside. When I reached the final message, it was from my father. Text actually. It read, "We need to talk. This is ridiculous." I turned the phone off. I didn't respond to a single one of them. I couldn't. What would I say? What could I say? That I was tired of being invisible to the people I loved? That it wasn't just about missing a dinner? That the real problem had been years in the making, a slow erosion of my worth in their eyes? No, I couldn't say that. I wasn't ready to let them twist it, to make me the villain in a story that wasn't mine. Instead, I went straight to the family group chat, the one I hadn't even opened since yesterday. I didn't read through the new messages. I didn't need to. I knew exactly what was in there: guilt, shame, and attempts at control. I swiped my finger across the screen, tapping on delete. And just like that, it was gone. The texts. The constant barrage of expectations and demands. All of it. For the first time in a long while, I felt peace. But I whispered to myself quietly, as if it was just for me to hear, that was the problem. The problem wasn't me. It wasn't my anger or my hurt. It was the fact that they never really thought about me. They never understood what their actions were doing to me. They'd never cared enough to ask. I wasn't being dramatic. I was finally speaking up. And that was something they'd never seen coming. Now it was time for me to step into the silence. Because in the silence I realized something even bigger. I didn't need them to validate me anymore. The days after I made the decision to walk away from it all were quiet. But not the kind of quiet that felt lonely or empty. It was a different kind of peace. One that settled into my bones like the calm after a storm. I'd never realized how much noise there had been in my life. Calls that came with strings attached. Conversations that always circled back to what I could do for someone else. The constant undercurrent of expectation. The weight of it all had made every day feel like a performance, one I was never quite good enough for. But now, with the digital silence ringing louder than any voicemail, I could finally breathe. I started doing things I never had time for before. Simple things that felt almost rebellious, like I was reclaiming a part of myself that had been buried for years. I began going to brunch alone, a small luxury I'd never allowed myself. At first I was nervous. Who eats alone? Doesn't that make you seem sad? But then I realized that when you're truly alone, without the clamor of people needing something from you, you get to enjoy your own company. And I did. I'd savor my coffee, laugh at the paper, and people watch with no guilt. For the first time I felt like I belonged to myself. The best part? I started meeting new people. Real connections. People who remembered my birthday without needing reminders or constant hints. Friends who checked in just to ask how I was doing, not because they needed something from me. They didn't assume I'd always be there for them without a second thought. They valued me because I was me, not because I was a stepping stone to something they wanted. And with that came the quiet thrill of not having to beg for attention anymore. No more waiting by the phone, hoping for a message, wondering why I wasn't good enough to be remembered. No more watching my family prioritize every other person and event above me. No more pretending that I didn't feel the sting of being forgotten. It was gone, all of it. That weight, that exhaustion, that constant feeling of being an afterthought. One afternoon I found myself standing outside the same restaurant where I had waited alone for them. The same spot where I'd forced myself to smile through my hurt, pretending like it didn't matter. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow across the street, and the restaurant windows reflected the laughter of families inside. I watched them, and for a moment I thought about what had happened, about how things had turned out. I smiled to myself. Not out of bitterness, but because I knew that I had taken control of my own story. I'd chosen peace over pain, silence over suffocation. And in that moment, standing on the same sidewalk where once I had felt abandoned, I felt a quiet kind of triumph. I wasn't lost anymore. I was found. And this time I was the one who mattered. Now listen it very carefully. If your family only remembers you when they need something, it's okay to let go. I know it's hard. Feels like you're breaking some invisible bond, like you're being selfish or cold. But here's the truth. When people only show up for you when they want something, they're not really showing up for you. They're showing up for what you can do for them. Sometimes silence isn't anger. It's healing. I used to think that I had to fight for their attention, constantly prove I was worthy of their love. But I learned that sometimes, the best thing you can do for yourself is step away. To stop being the one who gives and never receives anything in return. It's not selfish to want peace. It's not wrong to seek a love that's mutual, not one-sided. And remember this, Sometimes the loudest revenge is living well without them. It's not about showing them how much you've suffered. It's about showing them how much you can thrive without their approval. It's about finding your own happiness on your own terms. You are worthy of love, respect, and appreciation no matter who they are. Don't let anyone make you feel like you have to settle for less than what you deserve. And if that means walking away to find your own peace, then do it. You don't owe anyone your silence or your sacrifice. You owe yourself the chance to live a life full of love, joy, and real connections. The ones who truly matter will find their way to you. And when they do, they'll see you for who you truly are, not just for what you can do for them. Pauses, nods slightly with a knowing smile. Take care of yourself always. You deserve it.